So this is what it is, right? I'm gonna tell you right now. One of the most important things you can do for yourself and your family is get your family in line. For those of you who care, for those of you who are aware about the issues we've been facing for so many years in this world, in this society, this country, our history. For those of you who have a pretty good understanding about what's been going on, about what we've been dealing with, one of the most important things you can do is get your family in line. Our families are divided. Our families are disconnected. There are so many different variables that are affecting us as a nation of people. Number one, we don't know what to call ourselves. I know a lot of people argue about the idea that black is not a nationality. African American is not our nationality. I understand that. But at this point, we don't know what to call ourselves. We don't know how to refer to ourselves. So we can't, it's challenging to sit at the political table of races in this world, on this planet. It's challenging to sit at the table and represent ourselves when we can't define ourselves. You understand? We can't define ourselves. We have no claim to our name or our fame as a nation of people, infamous to the world. We can't claim anything. So they say. We have no leaders to represent us. At least that's what it seems. Who is our leader? At the same time, you ask the question, who is the leader of the Italians in America? Who is the leader of the Germans living in America? The Russians living in America? I'm not saying they don't exist. Does any particular race represent itself? Does the nation of any particular group of people, any particular race of people from any country around the world, does that race represent itself? Does it simply represent itself in this country we call the United States of America? Who are their leaders? Do we know who they are? Who represents those people when they sit down at the political table in Washington, D.C.? Who are they? I'm just asking a question. As black people, as African American people, as African people, Jamaican, Haitian, whatever you claim, whatever you call yourself, if your complexion is brown skin, black skin, you have to ask the question, how do you represent yourself? How do we represent ourselves as non-white people? For those of you who have a problem with the term black, for those of you who have a problem with the term African American, and now we're at a point where some of us don't think we're from Africa. Some of us believe that we're actually from America and this land was taken from us. I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense. Can you prove it? Some people say they can. Some people have paperwork. Well, if you have the paperwork, then you should share the information. Copy and paste that paperwork and give it to someone in your family, your friends, your business associates. Give it to someone, you hear me? Pass the information along. Whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or false. But we have to figure out how we represent ourselves at the political table of the United States of America, in this country and any country around the world. Because our issues affect us no matter where you come from, no matter what you call home. The issues of being black, because that's how they identify us. We all utilize that term. We all use that term, black. Even those who have a problem with it. We all use the term black. So we have to figure out how we identify ourselves. But in the meantime, as black people, as brown-skinned people, as non-white people, we need to sit down and have a conversation about us. Your family, your friends, your business associates, the people you attend church with, as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a Jehovah's Witness, as a Hebrew Israelite, as a Catholic, whatever you call yourself. It really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they identify us as black. They identify us as African American, regardless of what you call yourself. So as black people, as brown people who live in the United States of America, at the very least, we need to sit down and have a conversation about what we want, about what we need, and not what we can get from politicians, not what we can get from our government, what we can create for ourselves, what we can give to each other. You understand what I'm saying? Stop walking around with your hands out, man. We have to develop ways so that we can maintain our own lives, so that we can sustain our way of life, so our children, our future, our children can carry it forward. Create some independence for themselves. We have to teach them this way of life. But we become so comfortable. We become so conditioned, our mentality, to wait for someone else to give us something. Some individual, some entity beyond ourselves, outside of our ability to think, our ability to plan, to work, to build, to create, to produce. We need to develop a different mentality so that we can empower ourselves, so we can empower our future, our children, our future generations. We need to have a conversation about what we want and what we need. You hear me? We need to have a conversation about what we want for ourselves, what we need for ourselves, what we can gain, what we can create for ourselves. And for those of you out there who have a problem with black people having this conversation, it's not about you. It's not about you, or what we're going to do to you, or what could happen to you if we empower ourselves, if we gain strength within our families, within our communities. It's not about you, because most black people ain't thinking about you. We ain't worried about you. The only time we thinking about you is when you bothering us, when you in our business, when you worried about what we doing, when you stop us, when you question us, when you frisk us. That's the only time we get concerned about you. We ain't worried about you. You are not our concern, and there's no disrespect towards you either. We just want to live our lives. Do you understand that? We're just trying to survive in this world, in this society, in this country we call the United States of America, the United States. But if you think about it, everything that's going on in the United States, within each state, tells me that it's divided. It's not the United States of America, it's the divided states of America. As soon as you cross state lines, you have to deal with a different set of laws. No matter which state you cross, you have to deal with a different set of laws. Seems like the United States of America is becoming more and more divided as we move forward throughout time, if you check your history. But for those of you who have a problem with black people empowering themselves, it's not about you. You paranoid. We ain't worried about you. We just want to live. We just want to take care of our families. Struggling simply to survive. We struggling simply to survive. Living in this dreamland, creating fantasies about how we can thrive, but we never get there. We never get there, most of us. To thrive, simply struggling to survive from one day to the next, never knowing when we're going to die. For those living in the hood, for those living in the inner cities. Huh? Not knowing when you're going to take your last breath. Imagine that. Imagine that reality. Black people, it's imperative that we have a conversation about what we want and what we need. And what we need is more important than anything. Our priorities are the most important thing we should be focusing on as individuals, as fathers, as mothers of our families, responsible individuals who are working every single day of our lives, just trying to get by. We have to have a conversation about what we need and what we want. Immediately. And if you're not willing to have that conversation with me, at the very least, find individuals in your family who understand or have an idea about what's going on in this world, in this society, in this country that we are living in. The land of the free. How long have they been calling it the land of the free? Somebody Google that. Somebody Google how long they've been calling this country the land of the free. Free for who? Free for who? Man, the land of the free. Yeah. It's long overdue because I'm having conversations with individuals. Since I made a personal executive decision to make a transition in my life, and it's one of the hardest things that I could have possibly done. Man, since I made that transition, I've come across so much I've learned so much more about the world we live in. You know, because at the time I was so focused on empowering the people in my immediate circle, my immediate family. I was so focused on that, and I don't have a problem with that at all. You know, I was born that way. I was born to be that way. I was born to think that way, and I came up with that in mind. You know, I used to hear about how certain individuals would treat their family, you know, not really doing anything for their family, not trying to empower their family, you know, provide for their family. You know, I've seen so many individuals like that in my life growing up. You know, people abusing drugs, addicted to drugs, you know, running the streets and whatnot, you know, making babies, bringing babies into this world that they can't really take care of. You know, I've seen so much of this in my life. There was no way I wanted to live my life like that. There's no way. It's not what I wanted for myself. It's not what I ever wanted for my family. You know, so as fathers, black men, those of you who care, those of you who are aware, we need to have a conversation. We need to have a conversation about what's going on, about what we can do for ourselves, what we can do for each other. We need to change the mentality, because the stereotype of black people is that we don't stick together. That's a stereotype. I mean, this is common knowledge for every other race outside of ourselves, outside of our own. This is how they see us as black people, as black men. That we have no value, that we are worthless. And that's probably why a lot of our women, you know, don't have any respect for us. No matter how much they say they love us, and I know they love us, man. I know they do. Listen, I know they love us, but they don't have any genuine and sincere respect for us at the end of the day. Somewhere deep down, they don't have any respect for us. And most of us don't have any respect for ourselves, because if you think about the way you live your life, the way you carry yourself, listen, right? If you think about the way we carry ourselves, right? The way we represent ourselves to the world, at work, at school, in the street, on TV. How can you possibly expect anyone to respect us when we don't respect ourselves? We don't respect our own race. We don't respect our culture. What culture do we have? Hip-hop and R&B? The ability to dance and play sports? Is that our culture? Entertainment? Is that all people can talk about when it comes to black people? And the worst one of all, the fact that we are filling up the prisons within this country. Think about that. How do you carry yourself? How do you represent yourself? More importantly, in your music, those of you who are musicians out there, those of you who are entertaining the world on social media, right? How do you carry yourself as a black man? How do you represent yourself? Think about that for a moment. Do you glorify violence and crime in your music? Think about that for a second. Just take a moment. Black man, black father, black husband, black boyfriend, black uncle. Think about that for a second. How do you represent yourself in your music? Huh? Do you glorify violence and the destruction of your own people? Poisoning your own people in any way whatsoever? Think about that. How do you represent yourself? How do you represent yourself? Because it's not just about you, as an individual. It's about your race. A lot of you aren't willing to think that far. A lot of you could care less about your race. But you don't realize that every other race outside of ours is looking at you and stereotyping me. They're looking at you and stereotyping me. They're looking at you and stereotyping your child, your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your brother. They're stereotyping us as a race of people, as a nation of people, regardless of what we call ourselves, regardless of how we identify and represent and define ourselves. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. A Christian, a Muslim, a Republican, a Democrat. Mixed. It doesn't matter what you call yourself, because they see us all the same. Black. So you really need to think about how you portray yourself in your music, how you carry yourself in the street, because everybody's watching. Everybody is judging and criticizing and stereotyping us. So what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do to turn that around? What are we going to do to change the perspective of not just every other race outside of our own, but the perspective of our own black people and how we see ourselves, how we see each other as black people? What are we going to do to change that perspective, our own perspective of us? We have to make the change within ourselves. We have to change our mentality and how we carry ourselves in this world, in this global society, in this country we call the United States of America, or any country, wherever you come from. Because no matter where you go on this planet, those who have a problem with you will create more problems for you, simply because of the way they see you. Because of the way you portray you, the way you carry you. You understand where I'm coming from, black man? Black father, black king. It's that simple. We have to come together and have a conversation. For those of you who care, for those of you who are aware of what's going on, for those of you who want to make a difference within your own life, within your family, within your household, within your community, For those of you who want to make a difference and influence our future generations for the greater good of us all, not just black people, for the world. Because nothing is going to change in this world until we really get it together, until we really figure it out as black people. You gotta understand. You gotta understand in this global society that we live in, it's about the world. The reason why we've only gotten so far is because we're competing with each other within every race. We're competing with each other to the death. And we're not accomplishing what we need to accomplish. We're not developing ourselves and discovering our purpose as a race of people, not just black people. But as black people, we have to figure things out for ourselves. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, but we can't wait on anyone outside of ourselves, on anyone outside of our circle, outside of our blood, outside of our race, outside of our nation. We can't wait. For those of you who live in the Philadelphia area, please contact me. DM me, email me. Alright? So that we can get together and talk more about what's important, about how we can make a difference. I'm not asking you to vote. I'm not asking you to protest. I'm asking you to simply have a conversation with me about what's going on and figure out what we can do different as black men, as kings, as black fathers, as black soldiers, because that's what we are, all of the above. We're not just athletes and entertainers. You understand that? That's just the icing on the cake. We have a lot more to offer. We have a lot more substance. Some of you just haven't tapped into it. Some of you just haven't discovered your true self, who you really are deep down inside. Some of you have no clue what exists inside of you, how powerful you really are, not just in the physical form. It's deeper than that. The essence of us is everything. As black people, as black men, the essence of us is everything. So if you want to know more and you live in Philadelphia, come talk to me. Let's have a conversation. Let's create a dialogue to figure out what it is that we need as individuals, what it is that we want as individuals. Because we all have our own individual wants and needs. But collectively, we have to figure out what we all need together. Collectively, as a race, as a nation of people, we have to figure out what we all need for our families, our future generations, our children. Ultimately, so that we can create a legacy that they can maintain and carry forward. You understand what I'm saying? It's about life, real life, black people. If you want more, let's have a conversation about how we can get more. Because we ain't got to take nothing. We ain't got to ask for nothing. We can create whatever we want. You hear me? We ain't got to ask for nothing. We ain't got to take nothing. We can create whatever we want. We can create whatever we desire. Imagine that.